What's going on, everybody? Dave Mate. I am back for another online Yerba Mate circle. It's been many months since you guys have seen my face. Been very busy just building this organization, sharing Yerba Mate, and most importantly, educating people on what this magical herb is, everything that it has to offer. I've been drinking it for 6 years now. For those of you who don't know my story, just bear with me and let me talk about my story for a second, my history with Yerba Mate. Those of you that do know the story, this is going to be, something you heard already a million times, so I apologize for that. Several years ago, I went to Argentina. I went there just to basically learn Spanish. I wanted to learn Spanish. I'm a student of languages, and Spanish is one that I wanted to begin to tackle and understand. So I went out there. I enrolled in a language school, one of those schools, 4 or 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And after 3 months, my school finished, and my plan was to continue traveling all over South America. I was going to go to Medellin, Colombia. I was going to go to Peru. I was going to go all over South America and basically just travel for a couple of years, just doing that. Fortunately, I was in a situation to do that, so I wanted to do that during that time. Then I got involved with the girl. I was in a relationship, and she convinced me and begged me to stay in Argentina. So I basically ended up getting an apartment there, and long story short, I ended up staying there for about 3 years. From the first day that I was there, somebody handed me one of these gourds, and I started drinking Yerba Mate. Literally the first day that I was there. At the time, I didn't understand Yerba Mate. I didn't know what was going on. I just remember drinking this bittersweet liquid, and it was, it was okay. It didn't really pique my interest so much the first time I had it. But what really piqued my interest was the community aspect. Here I was, some North American from New York, first day in Argentina. I'm walking around the residence I was living in, and this group of girls said, "Come on over here, drink this with us." And, I'm a total stranger. They just invited me over to their little circle. I sat down, and it was incredible. I was just like, what is going on here? I don't even know these people. And they're inviting me to share this same straw, the bombisha, with them. They're helping me out. They're teaching me Spanish words. They're offering me food. They're being very cordial and very kind. And I'm just like, okay, I'm a New Yorker. And, that doesn't always happen in New York, unfortunately. New Yorkers are more kind of standoffish in some ways. We're not so open in terms of just, inviting strangers into their little inner circle. So I was very impressed, more so than the mate. I was impressed by the community aspects. I was impressed by just this level of camaraderie that up until that point I haven't really experienced. Yes, a year prior to that, I was living in California, where I did get a taste of that in Northern California. But what really concretized this level of community was going to Argentina. So, after the first several months, people kept on inviting me to drink this drink, Yerba Mate, out of this gourd, drinking from the bombisha. And then after about 3-4 months, I was just like, whoa, what's going on here? There seems to be some sort of magical aspect around this drink. There seems to be some sort of community building aspect that's imbued in this drink. So that kind of incited me to begin studying Yerba Mate. I started researching it, and at the time there wasn't really a lot of information online, and there certainly weren't any books on Yerba Mate besides some obscure books in Spanish and Portuguese. So essentially, I spent 3 years just studying Yerba Mate, living in Argentina. That was my sole occupation, drinking Yerba Mate every single day. Meeting many Argentines, amazing people. I love Argentine people, some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. They were so open. They took me into their homes, literally. They took me to their farms. They introduced me to their grandparents who were involved in the mate industry. They showed me all the techniques that they knew. They took me to mate museums, so on and so forth. 3 years just totally immersed in this culture. Essentially, at one point, I got a different apartment, and almost every single day, at least 4 days a week, for a couple of years, I just invited people over to my apartment to drink yerba mate. And at first, I didn't know how to make it properly, so the Argentines were the ones making all the mate for me. But after a while, I became so immersed in this culture that I said, you know what, let me just try to make it on my own. So, it was pretty badly made for the first couple times, but after several months of making it on my own, the Argentines were like, whoa, Dave, you're kind of getting this. Wow, your mates are getting better. They're getting better. A year goes by, 2 years goes by, and before you know it, I'm the one now making the yerba mate for all the Argentines. I'm the one making the yerba mate for all the other extranjeros or expats living in Argentina. So people started just calling me Dave Mate, like, oh, Dave, the guy Dave Mate who makes the mate for people. And essentially, I became a self-proclaimed expert on yerba mate. Self-proclaimed, it's just that I filled a niche that was just there. I was lucky enough to write the first book, as far as I know, as a North American on mate in English, called Mateology, which is on Amazon.com. And basically, that's just how it started. That's my little history. Yes, there's a lot of little things I'm missing. I kept out of that story because there's just so much that happened over those past 3 years. But I might talk about all the little minutia and things like that in my next book. Keep an eye out for that. Who knows when I'll publish that, but it's coming. So here we are today, 6 years later. Circle of Drink has become a community, a yerba mate community. It's not just about the product. It's not just about the single plant. It's not just about this. It's about relationships. It's about bridging the gaps between different cultures. As far as I know, there's never been a time in history where yerba mate has had so much attention, has had so much energy behind it, has had so many people from so many different countries behind it. Got to give respect to Quia Gourd, the largest yerba mate company in the United States. Back in 97 or so, 96, 97, they started their company and they started promoting yerba mate, and they really helped to, revitalize yerba mate, what I call the third wave of yerba mate in the United States. Then came Eco Teas not too long after, and they kind of helped to promote yerba mate. And then Circle of Drink formally begun in the United States in 2011. And right from the beginning, it was all about education. It wasn't about the products. It wasn't about the actual, selling of any gourds or anything. Nothing wrong with that. We sell gourds, we sell products. But for the first year and a half, all we did was just educate, because I believed in my heart that you have to get the education out there. You have to really share this experience with people. You can't just say, okay, here's yerba mate, go buy it, go drink it. No, that's missing the point altogether. Yerba mate is about bringing people together, powerful drink, powerful plant. Mythologically speaking, yerba mate has been hailed from the gods of friendship, the gods of, togetherness. So of your geography, doesn't matter. Here we have one drink that can be shared with anybody, and it brings people together, kind of gets your mind open, gets you talking, gets you feeling just conducive to building relationships. How does mate do that? I don't know. No scientist knows yet. No one has ever quantified it. Of course, we've been able to quantify the health benefits. Many, 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 many health benefits. Of course, this video is for educational purposes only, so consult your own medical care practitioner before consuming herbs. But with that said, the health benefits are incredible with yerba mate. Regulates glucose levels for people with diabetes, lowers blood pressure, basically gives you this natural surge of energy without any crashing effects that you get from coffee. Fights cancer cells, fights tumor cells. Just kind of detoxifies your system and brings your body back to homeostasis, which is inherent in a group of compounds or a group of herbs really called adaptogens. Mate helps your body adapt to internal and external stress. internal stress, bacteria, viruses, pathogens, what have you. External stress, environment, your social status in the world, you know, what's happening, is there contaminations around you, or, you know, who are the people around you. Mate helps you build this buffer system of not getting, you know, bogged down from everything else that's happening out there, whether it's from negative effects from people around you or negative effects from the soil, negative effects from the water, whatever it is. So with all that said, today we're going to talk about compare and contrast two different types of yerba mate gourds. The yerba mate gourd is what you see right here. This is the yerba mate gourd. This is where you hold the yerba mate in there. Right here is what you call a bombisha or bomba, depending on what country. And it essentially is inserted inside this hole, what I call the water hole. You preserve the mountain of mate here, and then you continue to add hot water like so. And then you just you enjoy this powerful drink called yerba mate. Okay, so yerba mate comes from several countries: Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, and Brazil, southern Brazil. Now, when I first started drinking yerba mate, I started drinking yerba mate out of what you see right here. This is called a Calabash yerba mate gourd. This is the most traditional gourd that you could drink out of in Argentina. Argentine gourds. Now, mind you, gourds are just basically made out of squash plants, hollowed out. The Argentines like them fairly thin, as you can see here. This is a thin gourd, lightweight. This only weighs a couple ounces, maybe 1-2 ounces. This is what you're going to see in Argentina. This is what you probably have already. This is what you see online. This is just the most ubiquitous, the traditional Calabash gourd. Now, Calabash, or in Spanish, calabaza, just means squash. It means squash. So calabaza in English is calabash. So if you hear someone say Calabash gourd, this is it. Or if you hear somebody say calabaza, this is it. It just means a squash plant mate gourd from Argentina. Now let me just jump over to the other side of the coin. Here we have a Quia, C-U-I-A, Quia. This is the most traditional yerba mate gourd in Brazil. Now, Brazil has essentially regulated, I don't want to say regulated, but the 3 southernmost states in Brazil are the only states in Brazil that really drink yerba mate. Yes, you'll find yerba mate drinkers throughout the country of Brazil, but it's only in those 3 southernmost states where mate is prevalent. Here is the gourd of that region. This is what you call a Quia, which essentially means traditional yerba mate gourd from Brazil. These gourds are different. As you can see, thicker, much thicker. They're deeper. They have a higher capacity. They can hold more yerba mate. Let's do a side by side. Here we have the Quia from southern Brazil, and here we have the Calabash from northern Argentina, the Misiones region. Very different philosophies, both squash plants, but different situations. Look at the form factors. The Quia has this lip, it's larger. The Calabash has more of a simple characteristic to it. Inside, it's a little different. You got that little part that comes in. It's like the umbilical cord right there of the plant. You don't really see that with this one. So neither one is better than the other. The purpose of this video is just to illustrate the differences and, you know, the similarities between the two. I drink out of both of them. Now, over the past year, those of you guys who have been following what I've been doing with Circle of Drink, you've noticed that I've been talking a lot more about yerba mate from Brazil, chimarrão, or erva mate, as it's pronounced. Essentially, that just means traditional yerba mate from southern Brazil. Now, in Brazil, we have to understand that there's 2 principal categories of yerba mate. We have the Brazilian mate that's grown for the locals, for the natives. Okay, now that yerba mate is very powdery. It's light. It's this neon green. It's not aged. This mate is grown for the local population. Now, on the other side of that, we have yerba mate grown for the Uruguayan population. That's what I call gaucho yerba mate. It's yerba mate grown in southern Brazil for Uruguay. Uruguay does not grow their own mate. Yes, they are in some levels of experimentation now trying to grow their own yerba mate. It's not that the mate cannot grow in the region. It is actually found natively growing in the region. It's more of an economic situation. Most of their land, their farmland at least, has been delegated to livestock production and pulp paper production. So they really don't have the room to grow yerba mate at this point. So they outsource all their growing to southern Brazil. That mate is not powdery, not really. It is powdery, but not pure powder. It has more of a coarse cut. Some examples would be Galaxy yerba mate from Circle of Drink, or Del Salvador yerba mate, Sarah yerba mate. Those are all good examples of what I refer to as gaucho yerba mate. Now, for pure locally grown for the local population, erva mate, E-R-V-A space M-A-T-E, that's pronounced erva mate, or shimahao. That mate is what we see right here. Look at this, pure powder almost. Now this mate, some examples of that would be Jimangu yerba mate, spelled with the X. Taquapi, the one that I'm drinking right now, actually. Taquapi. Don't expect to find this mate online right now. It's a very obscure brand. Taquapi. Barao is another yerba mate, erva mate. Now, the reason I bring that up is because those mates are best suited for these sort of gourds. Okay? Why is that? Why is the powdery, super powdery, local yerba mate from Brazil better suited in these sort of gourds right here? Okay? This is the Quia Gourd from southern Brazil. This is actually our Campania cup, we're calling it. Well, it's better suited because it has this bulbous circular formation. Now, when you have super powdery yerba mate, you need to have space around the actual filter of the bombisha, which I'll demonstrate in a second. Okay? It needs that sort of wide circumference in order to protect and maintain what I call the mate ecosystem inside of the gourd. These gourds are perfectly suited for erva mate or shimahao, powdery yerba mate from southern Brazil. Now, these gourds, as you can see, are slightly smaller, and they're not as circular and wide as these gourds. These gourds are better suited for what I call classical Argentine yerba mate, things like Mission, Cruz de Malta, Nobleza Gaucha. They're just very easy to use for wide cut yerba mates, coarse cut yerba mates. Now, there are two principal bombishas that what I like to do is pair the right bombisha with the right gourd. Now, of course, just take that as a grain of salt, because essentially you could use any bombisha for any gourd, for any cut of yerba mate. But if you want to make your life easier, use the right bombisha for the right gourd for the right yerba mate. Now, you may say, Dave, that's overkill, but no, it's really not overkill, really, because yerba mate, give it the respect that it's due. It's on par with the finest wine. It's on par with the finest tea, the finest gourmet coffee. It's on par with the finest whiskey. It's on par with the finest any gourmet luxury item, in my opinion. Mate really has that sort of diversity of character, that diversity of taste, that diversity of terroirs, the different tastes that it absorbs from the soils from different regions. Mate is extremely diverse, extremely subtle, and extremely expansive in terms of its range of different qualities, different levels, different philosophies of growing, different cuts. It gets really deep. Mate is a monster. You got to study it. You got to get into it. Now, for the bamba, you want to actually use this bamba right here. As you can see, it has many filters. It's a wide filter. Many holes. There's over 200 holes in this. This is our Monte Bombisha. In Brazil, this is called a bomba. Now, the bomba is best suited for the Quia. It goes right in. You follow the curvature. And here's your setup right here when you're drinking Padre Yerba Mate. You want to make sure that you have a bombicha, or what they call a bomba in Portuguese, that has at least, I would say, 180 to 230 holes. The more holes, the easier it's going to be. Now, I can't tell you how many emails I've received over the years. Dave, I can't drink yerba mate that's powdery. It's getting clogged. It's getting stuck. It's getting this and that. And I have to admit myself, there was a time when I was telling people, listen, you could use any bombicha. And you can use any bombicha. But I was very adamant, a couple years ago saying, just use any bombicha. It's going to work. But I wasn't considering that some people don't have the same amount of skill as I do when it comes to using bombichas, especially people just getting into mate. So though you could use any bombicha for any situation, really, like I said earlier, make your life easier and use one that has a lot of these little holes, a lot of these filters. Now, the more filters, the more holes that are on the end of the bombicha, the easier it's going to be for you to suck the mate through without getting it clogged. It just makes sense, right? More filters, less clogging. So if you're going to be drinking yerba mate from southern Brazil, let's consider what you need. You need the right sort of gourd. Gourd that's going to give you enough space below. A gourd that's going to give you enough room to build your mate, your mountain of mate, which is the dry mate on top. But more importantly than that, when it comes to this powdery mate, you need to be able to have that space below. Okay? Then you're going to need the right bombicha, you're going to need the right gourd, and then obviously you're going to need the right yerba mate. Now, yes, you could use any yerba mate for any gourd, but I recommend for these sort of gourds, they're particularly suited for powdery yerba mate, whether that's gaucho yerba mate, mate grown in southern Brazil for the Uruguayan palate, or whether that's traditional yerba mate grown for the locals called erva mate or chimarrão. Okay, this is the gourd I would suggest. Get yourself one of these if you're really wanting to get into powdery yerba mate, gaucho yerba mate, erva mate from southern Brazil, and make sure you got yourself the proper bombicha, one that has many holes, one that has this wide filter. Okay, now let me make another gourd. Thank you guys for watching. I see a couple people watching right now. If you guys have any questions, I think that you'll be able to actually type in some questions. If not, that's okay. This video is being recorded, so people will be able to watch it later on. But just bear with me 1 second. I just want to check the YouTube channel just to see if I'm missing any questions. You guys have a gourd, make yourself a gourd right now. Drink some yerba mate, relax. This is the intermission. All right, let's see here. I know last time I did one of these, I wasn't paying attention to the questions on YouTube. I don't want to make that same mistake today. So let me see. All right, I'm just going to keep that window open. Okay, guys, so now we're going to head on over to Argentina and talk about the situation over there. So in Argentina, we have the Calabash gourd. Calabash. As I said before, Calabash just means squash plant. Now, with this gourd, you could drink any yerba mate out of it, okay? But it's particularly suited for what I call classical cut Argentine yerba mate. Mate that's just your traditional cut. You know, it has palos, the white stems, a significant amount. It has a good amount of the hojas, the coarse cut leaves, and it has a moderate to low to moderate amount of polvo, the dust. That's what you call classical Argentine cut. These gourds are perfect for that. Okay. Now with these gourds, you want to pair them with, particularly, I like spoon bombishas. You could use a double action bombisha. You could use any bombisha. But when I'm drinking out of that sort of gourd, I do like the katana bombisha. Okay. Now the katana bombisha, technically speaking, you know, people who are in the industry will say that this bombisha is used for drinking tereré, which is basically cold iced tea yerba mate in a cup. And they just stick one of these bombishas in and just slurp through. Okay. That's cool. I'm not really into that so much. When I make cold yerba mate, I just make cold yerba mate and drink it out of a glass. I'm not really so much into the what you call the tereré, not at this point at least. But this bombisha right here, this is our katana bombisha. This is perfectly suited for Argentine yerba mate. Mate that has broad cut leaves. Mate that's not pure powder. Mate that doesn't have pulverized palos, pulverized stems, just regular traditional yerba mate. I recommend a combination like this. You got your Argentine Calabash gourd. You have your traditional spoon bombisha. This is just your traditional spoon bombisha. Some people call these the tereré bombishas. Tereré, as I said, it's cold yerba mate. And you're not going to have any problems with this sort of combination if you're using traditional cut yerba mate. Now, here's where we got into a lot of problems with many people over the years. If you're trying to drink yerba mate, this sort of yerba mate, the super fine cut powder yerba mate from southern Brazil, if you're trying to drink that with this and you're a novice, you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems most likely. Now, you can do it. I've done it for years. Drink that sort of mate with this, but you're making your life so much more difficult. Why make your life more difficult? Get the right bombisha. So I recommend if you're going to be drinking regular traditional yerba mate, this bombisha is fine. Any other bombisha is fine. But if you're going to be drinking powdery yerba mate from southern Brazil, you have to get yourself one of these. Okay, you can find them all over the internet. You don't have to get it from us. There's many sources online. Just make sure that it's very wide and make sure that it has at least, in my opinion, 180 holes total, which includes holes from the back, holes from the front. This one has over 230 holes, so it's a powerful bombisha. Okay, so let's just recap, guys. I don't want to make this video too long. I just kind of want to illustrate the main differences between the gourds. Let's recap. So we have two Calabash gourds. They're both made from squash plants, okay? This one, called a Quia, which hails from southern Brazil, is perfectly suited for powdery yerba mate called erva mate or chimarrão, which just means native traditional yerba mate from southern Brazil. With this gourd or this Quia, you want to use one of these, especially if you're drinking powdery yerba mate. Okay, now in Argentina, Calabash gourd, okay, perfectly suited for any sort of yerba mate, especially Argentine yerba mate like Mission, Cruz de Malta, Rosa Mate. And right here we have a traditional spoon bombisha, which is perfectly suited for this. Now, neither one of these gourds have to be cured. Curing is the whole, aspect of adding yerba mate to the gourd, adding hot water, letting it sit for 24 hours. I was a big fan of that years ago. Not so much anymore, honestly. It's not even that necessary. In my experience, if you have like a Palo Santo wooden gourd or some sort of wooden gourd from Argentina, it probably won't hurt if you really want to cure the gourd. But over the years, I'm starting to veer away from curing altogether. Why is that? Because if the gourd's going to crack, it's going to crack. It's no amount of curing is going to prevent that from happening. Now, there are some situations when curing will strengthen a gourd. It will expand, it will tighten a gourd and make it more solid. But honestly, at this point, curing a gourd is not even that necessary. Some people like to do it just for fun, to cure the gourd, to kind of give it a taste. Add mate in the gourd, let it sit for 24 hours, and it kind of absorbs the taste. That's good, no problem with that. But for actually, practical purposes at this point, curing is highly optional. I'm going to say highly optional, and it's not absolutely necessary anymore. So some people worry about mold and little black things forming in these gourds, and it gets kind of nasty sometimes. People think, don't worry about that. When you start using any one of these gourds, the process of oxidation, the process of breaking down the lingering plant flesh on the inside is going to break down. This is just basic. It's going to break down. It's going to turn green and brown and all these colors. But the most important thing to remember is that for the first couple months of using these gourds, make sure that they're dry every single night. When you're done using the gourd, empty out the gourd and let it dry every single night. After the first couple months, if you want, I do it all the time, you can leave mate in it overnight. Just don't leave mate in it for more than 1 or 2 days. Then it's going to get really nasty. Over time, these gourds will actually strengthen. They'll actually get harder. And all these little flesh materials, which is absolutely normal, will come out of the gourd eventually. Okay? So there is a curing process that's taking place, but the curing is taking place the more you use the gourd. It's not like this curing overnight, 24/7, 24 hours, and then it's cured for good. No, it's more like a cast iron pan. When you're seasoning it, it just becomes more and more seasoned with more and more use. Same exact thing with this. Now, what are the taste differences with these gourds? Because these gourds do emit different tastes naturally. Well, with these gourds, I find the Calabash gourds, it has a slightly more bitter taste that comes out of these, a little bit more astringent. That taste goes away over time. Those compounds called saponins are actually the culprit of that bitter taste. But mind you, that bitter taste is coming out of these that's kind of getting slightly infused into the mate is good for you. Those are good compounds. Those are called cucurbitacins, which are types of saponins. You can look more into that on my other videos. I'm not going to go too deep into that. So this mate, this gourd, does have a slight bitterness, but the good thing about this sort of Calabash gourd is that goes away very fast, and these gourds don't really absorb too much of the taste of other yerba mates. Some people don't like that, some people do. I actually do like that. So with these gourds, these Quias from southern Brazil, they are more sponge-like, much more sponge-like, like much more substantial. What I like about these gourds is that these gourds absorb the flavors from other yerba mates more so than the other ones. So yes, at the benefit of intermingling flavors, you're going to have the expense of not getting the true taste of the yerba mate. Yes, that's true. Those are the pros and cons. But lately, I've been liking that. I've been liking the fact that if I drink Mission yerba mate out of this gourd, and then I drink Jimango yerba mate out of this gourd, the Mission and the Jimango aspects are going to kind of blend together slightly. So when I'm drinking Mission, it's going to be slightly more sweeter because of the Jimango, which is a sweeter yerba mate. Or if I'm drinking Jimango, which is a lighter yerba mate in here, after drinking Mission, it's going to be slightly more robust because of the aftertaste from the Mission. So this gourd right here is best suited for the whole intermingling of flavors. Over time, this gourd is going to develop its own distinct taste with any sort of yerba mate you put in here. Keep that in mind. This gourd, not so much. So there's pros and there's cons. There's differences between the two gourds. Explore, have fun, play with the differences. You can't go wrong. So that's basically it, guys. I just wanted to kind of just illustrate the differences between these two different types of gourds. One of them is from Argentina. Another one is from southern Brazil. Make sure you use a large bombisha or bamba with this gourd right here from southern Brazil. And this one right here, you could basically use any bombisha, but if you're drinking Argentine yerba mate, I recommend just a traditional spoon bombisha like the katana or a double action bombisha, or any bombisha will work on this one. All right, guys, so if anyone has any questions, now's the time to ask. Let me just double check the YouTube page. Okay, cool. We got some followers. We got some watchers, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Bombisha will work on this one. All right. I don't want to get that double recall. All right, guys. And let me just end on this note. I just want to say thank you for everybody over the past several years. All the support, all the love. You guys know who you are. So many amazing customers, so many amazing community members. I've spoken to so many people over the years who've called up and just said, thank you, Dave. And, mate has changed my life. This is a game changer for me. My whole family's drinking this. I feel better now. I'm not sick anymore. I just reunited with my girlfriend. I just reunited with my mom because of mate. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Circle of Drink is nothing without you guys. Literally, it's nothing without the community. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for all the support and all the love and all the sharing. And thank you for telling everybody about Circle of Drink. That means the world to me. It really does. Yerba mate, powerful, powerful herb, powerful plant. For those of you guys looking to, maybe get off of coffee or get off of the Red Bull or get off of Pepsi, get off Coca-Cola, get off all those things that are kind of agitating your system, making your system more acidic, look into yerba mate. Give it a shot. Don't just take my word for it. Start drinking it yourself. Give yourself 30 days to start drinking yerba mate and see what happens. The herb will speak for itself. The connections that you make with people will speak for itself. That's the number one testimonial, firsthand experience. So just try this plant. I really hope that you explore it. Do some Google searches. Look at our videos on YouTube. Find us on Facebook. We got a lot of communities on Facebook. Just type in Circle of Drink on Facebook. You'll find us. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. If you're on Instagram, find us on Instagram. We have so many different outlets of information out there on the internet right now. This is the digital age. Everything's all over. Everything's digital right now. It's crazy. But just trying to go with it, not fight it. Just go with the whole digital age right now. This is a perfect vehicle to bring other people together. We have people from over 100 countries right now who are part of the Circle of Drink community, the Circle of Drink experience. I hope to see you guys in the circle. I hope to see you online somewhere sharing yerba mate. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this information with you. Drink that yerba mate. Feel good. Be a good person. Be kind. Share. And peace out, guys. My name's Dave Mate from circleofdrink.com and yerbamateland.com. Peace. Have a great 2016, guys.